들어보시죠. 맹년에 맹년아 마지막에 원하다 이 들어봐 Endless rubber 하나만 맹년아 새콤한 맹년아. That's one of Disney's most popular opening chants. And you can probably tell from the chant, and what I've got here, what today's Disney animation topic is on. But first, a little bit of history. After Aladdin broke box office records and proved to be a success during awards season in 1992, 1993 didn't have an animated Disney feature. They had an animated feature with Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas, but that was released through Touchstone Pictures and thus is not a part of the canon. But it is a really good film if you can get past the scary parts. 1993 was largely live-action Disney films like Homeward Bound, The Incredible Journey, Hocus Pocus, and Cool Runnings. In 1994, Disney started getting into the musical business with their first Broadway musical, Beauty and the Beast, based off the 1991 box office titan, and started getting into the direct-to-video market with The Return of Jafar, their first Aladdin sequel, which ultimately led to the Aladdin TV series later in the year, and of course the film's conclusion, Aladdin and the King of Thieves, which was also direct-to-video in 1996. There were also other live-action Disney films in 1994, including, live-action Disney films like Angels in the Outfield, The Mighty Ducks 2, and The Santa Claus starring Tim Allen. But the topic of today's review is Disney's 30-second full-length animated feature, The Lion King. For the first time ever, Disney did an animated feature that was an original story. They weren't basing it off a fairy tale or something that already exists. Though the story does take inspiration from projects like the Shakespeare play Hamlet, Old Testament Bible stories like Joseph and Moses, and Disney's animated feature film from the classic days, Bambi. They called it Bambi Meets Hamlet, or Bamlet. The idea for The Lion King first came during a plane ride that Jeffrey Katzenberg, Peter Schneider, and the late Roy Disney were taking to Europe to promote Oliver and Company in late 1988. While on the plane, the idea came up, what if we did a movie about animals in Africa? Katzenberg immediately embraced that idea, and they got to work. Originally, the directors were George Scribner, who had just come off of directing Oliver and Company, and Roger Allers, who had been head of story on Beauty and the Beast. This would be Allers' directing debut. Along with some other folks like Brenda Chapman, who became their head of story, and Chris Sanders, their production designer, and some other filmmakers, they went to Africa to study and photograph real-life animals. After their research trip, they came back to the studio to start work on the film. Scribner and Allers clashed with ideas on what the film should be about, because Scribner wanted to do a National Geographic-type documentary film for the story, Allers wanted to do a musical. Ultimately, Scribner left the project, and Allers' new directing partner became Rob Minkoff, making his feature film directorial debut after previously having directed the first two Roger Rabbit short films, Tommy Trouble from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and Roller Coaster Rabbit from Dick Tracy. Dick Tracy was a live-action Disney film from 1990, in case you're wondering. Thomas Schumacher was the original producer of the film, having produced The Rescuers Down Under, but had to be an executive producer after being promoted to vice president of Walt Disney Feature Animation. So the producer of The Lion King was instead Don Hahn, who had produced Beauty and the Beast. The Lion King actually was in production at the same time as Pocahontas, and a lot of the key animators went to work on Pocahontas because they thought that film was going to be the better of the two. Well, obviously they were wrong, but it was mostly the small people who worked on Lion King, but worked hard to make it a success. And what a success it was! Released to theaters for the summer of 1994, marking Walt Disney Feature Animation's first summer release in 8 years since The Great Mouse Detective, and the first time in an animated Disney feature where four-legged animals were the stars in 6 years since Oliver and Company. Lion King went on to gross even more money than Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and Aladdin. Over $800 million worldwide. And it got really good reviews, and was one of the top grossing films of the year. Even now, more than 20 years later, Lion King is still the highest grossing traditionally hand-drawn animated feature film of all time. And for good reason. It's got a great story, great characters, fantastic music, and a great storyline, and lessons for the audience. So here's my thoughts on The Lion King. One interesting move that Disney did with this film was they had the opening sequence, the song Circle of Life, as a teaser trailer. They put it out in theaters in, I think, November of 1993, which was shortly after Nightmare Before Christmas came out. They put out the teaser trailer on films like the live-action Disney version of The Three Musketeers to set up the audience and tell them, okay, this is what it's going to be about. And then several months later, when the film came to theaters, that ended up being the opening for the film, and everybody loved it. Circle of Life, I think, is one of the best opening musical numbers in any animated Disney feature film. Because it's called for celebration as the animals are gathering at Pride Rock to celebrate the birth of Simba, the new prince. From there, the story heads off with Simba, son of Mufasa, the Lion King, who has much to learn before he can take his father's paw print steps as king of the Pride Lands. His father tells him about true bravery. It doesn't mean you just run off to get into danger. And he tells him about the great kings of the past who look down from the stars in the night sky, watching over those who still live on Earth. Meanwhile, Simba's jealous Uncle Scar and his hyena henchmen team up to get rid of Simba and Mufasa, so Scar can become king of the Pride Lands, and the hyenas can eat whatever they want. Scar tricks Simba into a wildebeest stampede. Mufasa manages to save Simba, but is unable to save himself from Scar, and Scar pins the blame on Simba, telling him to run away, which Simba does, and this is where he meets Timon the Meerkat and Pumbaa the Warthog, the comic relief sidekicks. They teach him about Hakuna Matata, which means no worries, and he grows up in the jungle with them, forgetting about his responsibilities as king of the Pride Lands. Years later, when the Pride Lands are in ruin and starvation, Simba's childhood friend Nala comes to find him, and of course they fall in love, but Simba is worried about going back to the Pride Lands and whether or not he can be a good king after all these years. But a wise old baboon named Rafiki comes to help Simba take his place in the Circle of Life by showing him the ghost of Mufasa in the clouds, who encourages Simba to try. And from there, we see Simba, Nala, Timon, Pumbaa, and Rafiki going to help defeat Scar and the hyenas to take back Simba's kingdom. One of the things that grabs me immediately on The Lion King is the animation. The artists really did their homework when they went to Africa, sketching and studying real animals and flora and fauna with the plants and everything. Similar to Bambi, some of those real-life animals were even brought into the studio for the artists to sketch. I also really like the storyline. Anyone who's lived through childhood can relate to Simba when it comes to family and friends. The death of Mufasa is one example where somebody is really killed and there's no way to bring them back to life. I think that's something we can all relate to because we've all lost friends and family members, myself included, and it's had an impact on me and my family, and when we experience these childhood traumas, we can relate to Simba in that way. The original storyline of Lion King originally was going to be called King of the Jungle, and was actually much different from the original version, where Timon and Pumbaa were Simba's childhood friends. There was a clash between lions and baboons, with Scar leading the baboons, and Rafiki was going to be a cheetah. I'm kind of glad they went in the direction they went for the actual film. Something that also strikes me about The Lion King is most definitely the voice cast. They cast the characters based on what the actors could bring to those characters and their personalities. For instance, James Earl Jones, who Star Wars fans will remember as the voice of Darth Vader, was cast as Mufasa because he had this big, strong voice for this character. It evoked the roar of a lion. They considered a couple different actors for Scar, like Tim Curry and Malcolm McDowell, but ultimately got Jeremy Irons for the part. And he has such a powerful voice, and so he really made Scar his own. Scar is one of the most manipulative and cunning Disney villains ever for his trickery and his plans, and how accurately he's able to pull off these plans. Matthew Broderick voices adult Simba, and Home Improvement's Jonathan Taylor Thomas voices Cub Simba. Both of them do a very good job. A funny story about Nathan Lane and Ernie Sabala, the voices of Timon and Pumbaa, is that they had actually auditioned for... Nathan came in to audition for Zazu, the hornbill bird, who serves as Mufasa's royal advisor, and Ernie came in to audition for one of the hyenas. Having known each other for working together before, Nathan and Ernie both decided to audition as the hyenas, and the directors listened to their tape, and it was so funny they thought, maybe we should cast them as Timon and Pumbaa. So that's how they got that part. And then some of the hyenas were originally written for Cheech and Chong, but they found out that Cheech and Chong didn't work together anymore, so they kept Cheech Marin, but the other hyena got cast with Whoopi Goldberg. Whoopi Goldberg and Cheech Marin are some of my favorite comedic actors, and they do a really good job on the hyenas. The hyenas are some of the best comic relief sidekick villain characters I've seen in any animated Disney feature. You've also got Moira Kelly as Nala, with Nikita Kalami voicing Jan Nala. The late Robert Guillaume from Benson as Rafiki, and Mr. Bean himself, Rowan Atkinson, as Zazu. One of my personal favorite things about The Lion King, besides the voice cast and the animation, is the music. Tim Rice was working on the songs for Aladdin with Alan Menken, and Disney asked Tim to come and write the songs for Lion King. Tim agreed so long as he could find a composer. As Menken was unavailable, Rice originally wanted pop sensation ABBA to help him with the songs, but that fell through because their manager thought it wasn't going to work. So instead, Tim got singer and songwriter extraordinaire Sir Elton John, which the filmmakers were a little worried about first. Yeah, you sure you want to go through with this? Elton John on an animated feature? Yeah, he's a great musician and a great singer, but it ultimately worked out, and the songs are fantastic. They give it kind of an ultra-pop feel to the music so that kids and adults can have fun. It's kind of like watching and listening to the songs from Jungle Book again. They're fun for the kids, but they've also got an ultra-pop feel, so adults will enjoy them too. There's obviously the opening Circle of Life song. There's Simba's classic I Want song, I Just Can't Wait to Be King, full of bright colors in the animation and dancing animals. So much different than Circle of Life, but so much fun. I Just Can't Wait to Be King is one of my personal favorites. Scar's villain song, Be Prepared, which is also quite choreographically staged rather nicely. You've got the classic Hakuna Matata, of course, which is one of my favorite Disney sidekick songs ever. And then, of course, you've got the Oscar-winning love song, Can You Feel the Love Tonight? Which, an interesting story about that one is, originally, the filmmakers thought Timon and Pumbaa should sing this song in a comical fashion, but Elton John hated that idea and said, no, this is supposed to be the classic Prince and Princess love song that I've loved from Disney films for so long. Ultimately, it ended up being largely Simba and Nala in their heads, while on screen they're hanging out together, but the song is started and ended by Timon and Pumbaa, so they kind of met both sides of the same coin. So it's Elton John and Tim Rice on the songs, and then film composer Hans Zimmer did the score, which is also absolutely fantastic. Like Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and Aladdin, Lion King won both music Oscars. Best Score and Best Original Song for Can You Feel the Love Tonight, with Circle of Life and Hakuna Matata also nominated for Best Song. This would be the second time that Disney feature animation was nominated 3 times for Best Original Song at the Oscars, after Beauty and the Beast, and the last time for 13 years until 2007 when Disney's live-action film Enchanted was nominated 3 times for Best Song at the Oscars. Lion King also won the Golden Globe Award for Best Picture, like Beauty and the Beast before it and Toy Story 2 after it. Honestly, what more can I say about this? If you haven't seen Lion King, you are definitely missing out. So definitely check the Lion King out. Check it out 50 times if you want to. You will not be sorry. As a franchise, Lion King started with Timon and Pumbaa because they're everybody's favorite characters. They got their own TV series in fall of 1995, And for Christmas 1995, starred in a music video for the classic song Stand By Me, which was a short that played in theaters with Disney's live-action film Tom and Huck, released Christmas 1995. Ironically enough, Jonathan Taylor Thomas, who voices young Simba, stars in Tom and Huck as young Tom Sawyer. Lion King also had a Broadway musical adaptation that debuted in fall of 1997, winning several Tony Awards, including Best Musical. With characters' roles like the hyenas and Nala expanded, Rafiki changed to a girl so that she and Nala could have bigger roles because director Julie Taymor felt the film lacked a strong female. More with Scar, new songs, and an interesting thing is that Mufasa was played by Samuel E. Wright, voice of Sebastian the Crab in The Little Mermaid. Lion King is probably my favorite Broadway musical of the ones that Disney's done so far. A direct-to-video sequel, The Lion King 2 Simba's Pride, was released fall 1998. While the original Lion King borrowed from Shakespeare's Hamlet, Lion King 2 is largely Romeo and Juliet. Simba and Nala now have a daughter, Kiara, voiced as an adult by Neve Campbell, who escapes her babysitters, Timon and Pumbaa, and sneaks off to the Forbidden Outlands where she meets a cub named Kovu. The two are forced to grow up separately, but years later meet up, with Kovu voiced by Jason Marsden. Disney fans will probably recognize him as the voice of Goofy's son, Max. And together, they try to reunite their prides before a war starts. Featuring most of the original voice cast, along with new actors like Campbell, Marsden, the late Suzanne Pleshette as our main villain, Zira, and Andy Dick does a voice in the film. Not as good as the original, but it's one of the better direct-to-video Disney sequels. Although I personally like The Lion King's other direct-to-video follow-up, The Lion King 1.5, released in February 2004, the same year the original Lion King celebrated its 10th anniversary. This one tells the story of the original Lion King from Timon and Pumbaa's perspective, when Timon was an outcast living in a meerkat colony and struck out on his own to find his place in life, how he met up with Pumbaa, and how they influenced events of the original film. Featuring most of the original voice cast, along with new characters, Timon's Ma, voiced by Julie Kavner from The Simpsons, and Uncle Max, voiced by Jerry Stiller, Ben Stiller's father. Nowadays, on Disney Junior on Disney Channel, they have a spin-off TV series called The Lion Guard, focusing on Simba and Nala's son and Kiara's little brother, Kion, who arranges a group of animals to protect the Pride Lands. It's kind of a Disney version, Lion King version of The Avengers for kids. I've seen an episode or two of it, and the movie that started it, Return of the Roar, it's good, but not as good as the shows I normally watch, like Miles from Tomorrowland. And then finally, a live-action / computer-animated remake of Lion King, directed by Jon Favreau, who directed the live-action Jungle Book, is set for release in theaters next summer to coincide with the original film's 25th anniversary. Now that, I can't wait to see. They're bringing back the original songs. There's some good acting involved, like Seth Rogen, Donald Glover, and recording artist Beyonce, among others. So, if Jon Favreau can pull off the Jungle Book really well, I have faith that he can do a good retelling of Lion King. So, but you'll have to wait till next summer for that one. Lion King's latest home video release was its Walt Disney Signature Collection Blu-ray, DVD, and digital release, summer 2017. With old bonus features including deleted scenes, audio commentary, the song Morning Report, which was famous in the Broadway version and was put in for the movie, with the original animators back to animate the song. On the Platinum Edition, it was part of the movie, but here it's just a bonus feature, Morning Report. And then there's also outtakes and bloopers where they animate scenes from the movie as if it was shot like a live-action film and the characters have flubs and messed up. Although Disney stole the idea from Pixar because Pixar used to do that with their movies. For new bonus features, we have Visualizing a Villain, which talks about the design and creation of Scar. Behind-the-scenes looks at the recording sessions when the actors recorded the voices for their characters. Inside the story room, where they have story meetings, we actually get to see clips of the story meetings they had, and an extended Lion King conversation with Matthew Broderick and Nathan Lane, the voices of Simba and Timon. Plus, there are two versions of the film, the original theatrical release and a new sing-along version. So that's The Lion King, and what's on the home video release. If you haven't seen The Lion King yet, definitely check it out. Well, we're out of time for today. Remember, when you wish upon a star, your dreams come true. Goodbye!